Oh, hey man, I didn't see you there. What's up?
Yo, what's up, dude?
Yeah, I was just coming in here. I was hoping to watch the D-backs game. They're in a tight one with the Dodgers right now. I'm gonna flip over to that. Yeah, I've been watching basketball all day, every day, so it's gonna be tough for you to watch some baseball, but maybe a little bit. I don't understand. The baseball game on, it's important.
I'm watching the
D-backs
Lakers
game
game
right now. So if that's over before the D-backs game is done, then we can flip over to that. Oh, hey guys, can we turn on the hockey game?
No!
What's up, everybody? You're watching another episode of The Back Page. I'm Alec White with the Arizona Daily Star, and if you recall from my last video, I talked about the possibility of the return to sports. Now, this was in early July, and now we're in early August, and it's safe to say sports are back. We've had the NHL, the MLB, the NBA, the WNBA all resume their seasons within the last 2 weeks, and if you're anything like me, you've probably been glued to your TV almost every single night. Last weekend, we had over 60 professional sporting events played, and we're gearing up for almost 70 this weekend. I'll admit, it's been a little weird watching these games without any fans, even though there are the virtual fans in the NBA and the cutouts in the MLB, but just be thankful you get to watch these games from the comfort of your own home. Let's take Jack Flaherty, Cardinals pitcher, for example. He was holed up in a hotel in Milwaukee for the last week and had to use the mattress in his hotel room as a throwing pad to get in a throwing session. I mean, just be glad you're not in Milwaukee for a week. Last week, the Arizona Wildcats unveiled their Pac-12 only schedule, and the first thing that jumps off the bat is the Territorial Cup, set for the first week of the season on September 26th. The Wildcats have lost 3 in a row to the Sun Devils. If they start off with the loss, it could spell trouble for the rest of the season. But my colleagues Justin Spears and Michael Lev, we discussed the possibilities of Arizona's season and what would it take for the Wildcats to fire someone if they get off to a bad start.
So, it's going to be really tough for Arizona, but I also think that I don't think it matters what Arizona does this year. I mean, you could justify 0-10 and letting go of a coach, but even if they go 1-9, and, fans are saying, well, we haven't seen anything from Kevin Sumlin. He's lost more games than he's won. You need to let him go. Dave Hickey and President Ramos can just look at fans with their pockets hanging out like, we don't have any money.
If they were to go 0-10, I think you could justify the move. I don't think they're going to go 0-10. I think they have, some advantages that other schools do not have. One of them is a quarterback who returns, who has some experience and looked good when he was out there.
And if we're able to have a college football season, I don't think the Wildcats are going to go 0-10 like the Athletics' Stuart Mandel is suggesting. I have the Wildcats pegged in around 3-7, possibly 4-6 if Grant Cannell outperforms expectations. Either way, I'll just be thankful if we get to see some football this fall. For today's history lesson, we're hearing from former Arizona Wildcats men's basketball player Corey Williams, who's now an ESPN college basketball analyst. He's talking to us about some past recruiting experiences he's had and why Bobby Olson was one of the keys to his commitment.
Is with this quarantine, I've remodeled my home, I was cleaning out my office, and my mother has this huge bin of all my recruiting, not even all of it, like maybe, honestly, that's like 5% of the stuff I have. I had boxes full of stuff. We threw out all the letters, but we kept most of the media guides. I kind of went through them and kept the media. I threw out all the mail because the mail was ridiculous. But yeah, I'd go through the box and I'd see a postcard signed from Lute Olson. Coaches aren't doing that anymore.
Right.
Paper mail. The recruiting process has changed so much. So I thought, the basketball junkies would get a kick out of seeing how it used to be.
Rick Pitino was recruiting you, Lute Olson recruiting you. Take me through kind of the different styles of recruiting that those coaches had.
Well, it was interesting because back then, with the format, which I think is still the format today, is the assistant coaches, it's their job to go recruit. The head coach comes in the final stages to kind of put a bow on it. Head coaches between, they do some recruiting, they show their face, they'll sign letters and postcards, but the majority of your contact and phone calls came from assistants. Every once in a while, the head coach would reach out to you if you were really high on their list. Now, I didn't really care much for my area. I didn't want to play Big Ten basketball. I'd seen it all my life. I wanted to get out and get away. I didn't want to be didn't want to stay local. And that was just my personality. I wanted to travel and get out. And man, the allure for me was, Arizona was far away and all these other schools were pretty big and they were powerhouse schools. So I definitely wanted to go somewhere that was going to be challenging. And I thought, once I finally realized myself that, okay, Corey, barring an injury, you're probably going to be a top Division I player. So you go through these stages. How good am I? Am I better than the local guys around me? Yeah. Am I better than the guys in Chicago? Yeah. Am I good as some of the guys nationally? And that's back when Nike had their ABCD camp. So that was the proving camp. When you went to Nike camp, Denny Crum, Lute Olson, Krzyzewski, they were all there. All the coaches descended on this one camp that Nike used to hold, and they'd see you live in the flesh and verify if the local sports writers had it right. Olson, he got involved in my recruiting end of my sophomore year. When I had a breakout season, we went to a couple summer tournaments. I played very well. I went to Nike camp. That's when I started hearing from Coach Olson. When I was I think I was third team All-American at that point. So that was a pretty good class that came out in '92. But yeah, it was an interesting process for sure.
Did you know that Arizona was going to be the school that you wanted to go to? What was kind of the deciding factor? Was it Lute that kind of pushed you over the edge, or the assistants? What kind of nudged you?
I had a great relationship with Tony McAndrews. Coach McAndrews is the reason Arizona was my number 2 school. Tony McAndrews was coach there for a year after my freshman year, then he left. Tony McAndrews recruited me. He was a great guy. My mom loved him, and that was the key to my recruiting. My parents had to like you. If my parents didn't like you, you didn't stand a chance. I was a young 18-year-old kid. I was pretty smart, got great grades, but my parents were really protective. So he did a great job of presenting himself to my folks. So by the time Arizona was in my finals, they thought favorably of Coach McAndrews. And I felt like Duke was my first choice. Arizona was my second. I had watched Coach Olson when he was the coach at Iowa. So I grew up watching him coach at Iowa, and I was impressed with him then. And then to find out he was the coach at Arizona, I was already familiar with him a little bit from watching Big Ten basketball.
You posted that the Chicago Sun-Times had you going. They said you committed to Duke. Was that?
Yeah, it was crazy. So my original list was Duke, then Arizona, then Syracuse, and then Michigan, and all the other schools. So Mike Krzyzewski was from Chicago, so he figured he had an in. But I didn't live in Chicago. I lived 40 miles west in the suburbs. So I was a Chicago kid, but not really. So I had let it be known that I liked Duke because my parents were super, super big on academics. And Duke was a really good school for, obviously academically. Duke was pretty successful at the time. I'm thinking, I go to Duke, fit in, do my thing. I got a shot to go to the NBA. Well, that was something me and my coach talked about, but I never really released a list. So I remember Doug Collins, who's the coach of the Bulls with Jordan. His son, Chris Collins, lived in Glenbrook North. They lived out in a suburb called Glenbrook, and Chris liked Duke all along. Chris was okay player. He'll tell you that. He wasn't great, but he was okay player. But Chris, because he was Doug Collins' son and he was putting up numbers out in the suburbs, Duke was recruiting him. And somebody asked me, wouldn't you like to play with Chris Collins? And my answer to the question was, yeah, I'd love to play with Chris Collins. Like, as a teammate, he's a really solid point guard. He can shoot. He can distribute the ball. I'm thinking they're talking about, if you were in high school, wouldn't you love to play with him? Yeah, he'd be great to play with. They took that and meant Corey Williams wants to go to Duke to play with Chris Collins. And I didn't really think anything of it. And one day I woke up and I read, and somebody said, man, are you going to Duke? I was like, no, I'm not going to Duke. They were like, well, it's in the newspaper. And me and my coach, we laughed because there was no internet. There was no way to verify this stuff. It was a sports writer guessing, most likely, Duke wants Corey. Corey wants Duke. Most likely he'll go to Duke. But when they put it in the newspaper, my phone was ringing off the hook for the next week. I mean, Michigan, Arizona, Villanova, Syracuse, Ohio State, UCLA. Everybody was calling me like, Corey, what's going on, man? It says you're going to Duke. I was like, man, I don't know where that guy got that from. That's not true. I haven't signed anything. I haven't even visited Duke. When the Duke situation happened, I was like, okay, Arizona's my number 2 school, so I'll start taking my campus visits. Well, I came out, Had a great visit. Coach McAndrews was there. My parents flew out. Back then, the parents had to get to campus. Once they were on campus, the school could take care of them. That was the rule back then. I don't know what the rule is now. But my parents flew to Phoenix and drove down, and we had our campus visit, and they met Coach Olson, and they met, and to be honest with you, I'm just going to be honest. Between Tony McAndrews and Bobby Olson, it was a wrap. Bobby Olson single-handedly signed more recruits than any coach Arizona's ever had. And I want you to understand what I mean when I say that. When you're a parent and you're giving your child to a program, when you meet someone like Bobby Olson, it's for mothers, it seals the deal. I thought she was going to be, I'm the coach's wife, because I've seen coaches' wives before. This woman didn't have a fake bone in her body. She was the most genuine person. She loved all the players like they were her son. She met with my mother, and my mother could get that vibe off of her, that this is a real woman who's going to care for my boy and make sure nothing happens to her. And I think a lot of recruits will tell you Bobby Olson, her connection with parents and mothers is one of the main reasons Arizona was so successful in the 90s. She signed all the talent. You can't find a player's mom who didn't love Miss O.
To hear more from Corey Williams, check out the full story on Tucson.com. Well, that'll do it for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in, and be sure to subscribe to the Arizona Daily Star at Tucson.com and follow us on Twitter at The Wildcaster. Thanks.